There is a storm raging within you. You may not show it. You may walk through the world with a composed face, with a straight back and a determined stride, but deep inside, behind the curtain of your public strength, there may be thunder rumbling in your soul. A quiet unrest, a war of fears, a whirlwind of doubt, confusion, and pain. That is the storm I'm speaking of, the one no one sees, but you feel with every beat of your heart. And let me tell you this truth that has stood the test of time. There is no storm within you that God cannot calm. The world will try to sell you silence through chaos. It will urge you to chase peace in possessions, power, and praise. But those are distractions, not remedies. You must understand, truly understand, that storms are not only external. They are internal, emotional, spiritual. They rage in the chambers of the heart, and it is there, in the unseen battlefield of the soul, where God steps in, not just as a spectator, but as your commander, your guide, your calm. You see, the strongest people are not those who roar the loudest, but those who whisper peace in the middle of their storm. And where does that peace come from? From trusting in something greater than yourself. Something eternal, something that has never and will never fail, that source is God. Now you might say, but my life is a mess. My relationships are breaking. My finances are shattered. My health is uncertain. How can I find calm in the midst of this chaos? Let me ask you something. Have you tried giving your storm to God? I don't mean just praying once and walking away. I mean truly surrendering the outcome, truly believing that what you are facing is not greater than the one who created you. You were not designed to carry the weight of the world. That burden is not yours to bear. What is yours is faith. What is yours is trust. What is yours is the ability to hand over your deepest fears to the one who already holds your future in his hands. There is tremendous power in surrender, but the world has distorted the meaning of that word. They say surrender means weakness. No, it means wisdom. It means recognizing your limits and inviting in the infinite. It means stepping aside so that divine power can step in. Imagine this. You're in the middle of the ocean. A storm has caught your ship. Waves are crashing over the deck. The sky is dark. You're gripping the wheel, hands trembling, trying to navigate. But the more you steer, the more lost you become. That's your life when you try to control everything. Now imagine letting go, not in hopelessness, but in trust. Imagine saying, God, I don't know the way, but I believe you do. Suddenly the wind starts to change. The waves subside, not because of your power, but because of your peace. That is what it means to let God calm your storm. Don't misunderstand me. This is not about doing nothing. This is about doing the right thing, choosing faith over fear, choosing trust over anxiety, choosing surrender over control. It's not passive, it's powerful. When you let God lead, you become a warrior not just of strength, but of serenity. Do you remember the moments in your life when you felt most at peace? I'll tell you a secret. Peace didn't come from perfect circumstances. It came from within. It came from alignment, with truth, with purpose, with the divine. You were never meant to navigate this journey alone. Every time you've fallen, every time you've wept, every time your soul screamed in silence, he was there, not judging, but waiting, waiting for you to reach out, waiting for you to say, help me. And when you say those words, not as a plea of weakness, but as a declaration of divine expectation, things begin to move, not always around you, but always within you. That storm that once seemed unbearable begins to feel lighter. Why? Because peace is not the absence of storms. It is the presence of God in the midst of them. You must realize that inner peace is a decision to believe that what you see is not all there is, that your current struggle is not your final sentence, that the storm you're facing is not stronger than the God you serve. You are not your fear. You are not your anxiety. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are a vessel of purpose. You are a soul crafted with intention, and the storms you face are not punishments. They are passages. They are not blockades. They are bridges. They are designed not to break you, but to awaken you. There is greatness within you, but it cannot rise until the storm inside you is stilled. And that stillness, true, lasting stillness, comes only when you allow the calm of God to flood your spirit. It is like a lighthouse in the middle of a hurricane, anchored, unwavering, constant. That lighthouse is your faith. There are storms that shake the world around us. Hurricanes, earthquakes, wars, and economic collapse. But even more powerful than these are the storms that shake the soul. They are invisible to the eye, yet heavy enough to bring even the strongest person to their knees. These storms live within deep, quiet, and personal. They come in the form of fear, anxiety, doubt, grief, loneliness, shame. They rage silently, often when the lights go out and no one else is watching. And while others might not see the turmoil, we carry it with us in every moment, behind every smile, beneath every breath. The storm inside can be so intense that it overshadows everything else. It clouds our judgment, weakens our will, and steals our sleep. We go through the motions of life pretending all is well, yet on the inside we are trembling. We feel the waves crashing against our peace, the winds of uncertainty tearing through our confidence. The enemy is not the world around us, it's the unrest within us. It's the fear that whispers lies when we try to be brave. It's the anxiety that convinces us we are alone, even when we are surrounded by people. It's the doubt that gnaws at our faith and makes us question everything we once believed. We may try to silence the storm with distractions. We chase success, relationships, entertainment, and the approval of others. We fill our schedules and our minds, hoping that if we stay busy enough, the storm will quiet down. But that kind of peace is temporary. The moment the noise stops, the storm returns, because the truth is, no amount of worldly comfort can reach the depths of a restless soul. No career, no amount of money, no human validation can touch the root of the turmoil within. We weren't created to calm our storms alone. That's a weight we were never meant to carry. Real peace, the kind that calms the heart and stills the mind, comes from the presence of God. It is not manufactured by effort or earned through achievements. It's received through surrender. When we lay our burdens down and open our hearts, we make room for the divine to enter, and in that space the storm begins to quiet, the fear loses its grip, the anxiety starts to fade. There is a calm that overtakes us, not because the world outside has changed, but because something deep within us has. That is what happens when we invite God into the center of our storm. There's a reason the fiercest battles are fought in silence. Because the enemy of peace doesn't want you to turn to the one who gives it. But when you choose to open your heart and let God in, he doesn't just comfort you. He transforms you. He calms the waters, not always around you, but always within you. He reminds you that you are never alone, never forgotten, never without hope. And in that stillness, in that sacred quiet, you find the strength to stand, to breathe, to keep going, not as someone barely surviving, but as someone completely renewed. So many people today are searching for peace in all the wrong places. They believe that if they can just fix their circumstances, get the right job, earn more money, repair a broken relationship, or reach a certain level of success, then peace will come. But time and again we see that even after reaching those goals, the heart remains restless. That's because true peace is not the product of a perfect environment. It is not found in what surrounds us, but in who holds us. We were not created to be satisfied by things that fade, but by a presence that never changes. The world offers many temporary solutions. It tells you to think positive, to stay busy, to focus on yourself, to numb the pain with pleasures and distractions. But those things don't deal with the root of unrest. They just cover it up. Real peace doesn't come from escaping problems. It comes from knowing that no matter what you face, you are not facing it alone. There is a calm that settles the heart when you trust that God is in control. even when everything else feels out of control. That kind of peace is not shallow. It is deep, lasting, and unshakable. Surrender is the key. But surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. It is handing your fears, your worries, your need to control every outcome into the hands of the one who sees the full picture. When you surrender to God, you are saying, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. That trust creates space for peace to enter. It's not the absence of struggle that brings peace, it's the presence of God in the middle of the struggle. And when you let go of your tight grip on worry, your soul can finally breathe. There is something powerful that happens when you stop striving to fix everything yourself and instead rest in the assurance that God is greater than the storm. You stop fighting a battle that isn't yours to fight. You begin to experience a shift, not necessarily in your circumstances, but in your heart. The fear loses its voice. The weight on your chest begins to lift. The noise in your mind starts to quiet. This is not a peace the world can offer, nor a peace the world can take away. It's divine, it's eternal. It reaches into the darkest corners of your heart and brings light. God never said the road would be easy, but he did promise to walk it with you. And when you truly trust him, when you surrender your burdens into his hands, you will experience a peace that surpasses all understanding. It is not a peace that waits for life to be perfect. It is a peace that exists even when life is not. That's the miracle. That's the calm in the storm. When you stop looking for peace in the world and start resting in the arms of your Creator, you discover a kind of strength, a kind of quiet confidence that no storm can shake. Many people hear the word surrender and immediately associate it with defeat. They think it means giving up, waving the white flag, or admitting failure. But when it comes to our relationship with God, surrender doesn't mean weakness. It means wisdom. It means realizing that we are not the ultimate authority, and we were never meant to carry every burden or solve every problem on our own. True strength begins the moment we admit we cannot do everything by ourselves, and we humbly invite a higher power to take the lead. Surrendering to God is not an act of despair, but a declaration of trust. It's saying, I know I've done all I can, and now I choose to believe that God can do what I cannot. It is not about giving up control out of fear. It is about giving over control in faith. It is in that sacred moment of surrender that the heart begins to heal, the mind begins to clear, and the soul finds peace. God does not meet us at the point of our perfection. He meets us at the point of our need. And when we surrender, we are no longer trying to force things in our limited strength, but allowing his strength to guide, provide, and restore. There is a kind of wisdom that comes only from surrender. It is the wisdom to know what is yours to carry and what is God's to handle. When you try to shoulder the weight of everything, every worry, every decision, every outcome, you wear yourself down. Life becomes heavy, overwhelming, and exhausting. But when you surrender, when you say, Lord, I give this to you, you trade your weakness for his power. You exchange confusion for clarity. You let go of striving and embrace the peace of trusting in divine timing and purpose. People often believe that holding on proves strength, but in truth it takes greater courage to let go. It takes faith to release control, especially when the future is uncertain or the pain is deep. Yet that is where the greatest breakthroughs happen. God does not expect you to have all the answers. He asks you to trust the one who does, and when you surrender, you're not losing anything of value. You're making room for something far greater, wisdom that sees beyond your current storm and strength that lifts you above it. Surrender is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of something new. It opens the door for healing, for direction, for peace that no man can give and no circumstance can destroy. When you recognize your limitations and lay them before God, you position yourself to receive exactly what you need. You no longer walk in your own power. but in the quiet, steady assurance that you are being led by hands far stronger and wiser than your own. That is not weakness. It is the highest form of wisdom and the truest path to peace. There are times in life when the storm seems overwhelming, when everything around us is in turmoil, and we feel as though we are being tossed on the waves of uncertainty. In those moments, it can feel as if peace is out of reach, like the chaos will never end. But what if peace doesn't come from the calm of our circumstances, but from something deeper? What if peace is not about waiting for the storm to pass, but about having something inside us that remains steady even when the storm rages on? That is the power of faith. Faith is the anchor that holds us firm, even when the winds howl and the waves crash against us. It is not the absence of fear or the removal of obstacles, but the presence of an unshakable trust in God. Just as an anchor holds a ship steady in rough seas, faith grounds us in the midst of life's storms. It doesn't promise that we won't face difficulty, but it assures us that we won't face it alone. The more we trust, the stronger the anchor becomes, and the calmer our hearts remain, no matter the challenges that lie ahead. When we have faith, we find that peace does not always look like an absence of trouble. It often comes in the form of a quiet spirit amidst the turmoil. The world tells us that peace is when everything is going right, when life is smooth and predictable. But true peace, the peace that God offers, is different. It is a peace that holds us even when the storm is still raging. It is not determined by what is happening around us, but by what is happening within us. Faith allows us to experience that kind of peace, the kind that doesn't flee when trouble arrives, but remains steadfast, strong, and steady. In the storms of life, it is easy to become consumed by worry, fear, and doubt. We can easily focus on the waves, on the darkness of the clouds, and forget that there is a God who has the power to calm both the storm and our hearts. But faith shifts our focus. It draws our attention away from the turbulence of the moment and toward the one who holds our future in his hands. It reminds us that the circumstances we see are temporary, but the peace of God is eternal. Even in the worst of times, we can rest in the knowledge that he is with us, guiding us, and that his presence is greater than any storm we face. When we anchor ourselves in faith, we discover a peace that doesn't rely on the absence of problems, but on the presence of God in the midst of them. That peace doesn't leave us when the storm rages. It holds us steady. It comforts us in the darkest hours. It gives us hope when everything seems hopeless. And most importantly, it reminds us that no matter what happens around us, God is with us, our anchor, our calm, and our peace. Many times when we face a storm in life, our first instinct is to question why it's happening. We might wonder if we've done something wrong, if we are being punished, or if God is upset with us. It's easy to look at the struggles we go through as a form of punishment. But this way of thinking misses the greater truth, that storms are not punishments, they are passages. They are opportunities ordained by God to grow, to refine, and to become stronger. These trials are not sent to break us, but to build us into something greater than we were before. Think about the process of refining gold. The gold is placed in intense heat to melt away the impurities, revealing a pure and precious metal. The storm in your life serves a similar purpose. It is the heat that burns away the things that are not essential, the fears, the doubts, the insecurities that cloud your soul. When we respond to life's storms with trust instead of fear, we allow God to refine us in the same way that the refiner purifies gold. It's through these challenges that we develop the character, resilience, and wisdom that are necessary for the next season of life. God does not waste pain or difficulty. He uses the storms we face to help us grow. These struggles, though painful, are not meaningless. They are the training grounds where our faith is stretched, our patience is tested, and our trust in God is deepened. When we allow ourselves to lean into God during the storm, rather than running away from it, we begin to experience a transformation. We learn to depend on God more fully and to trust that He is in control, even when everything around us seems uncertain. The storm becomes the classroom where we are prepared for the future. Our response to the storm determines what we take away from it. If we face it with fear and resistance, we might miss the lessons that are meant to shape us. But if we face it with trust in God, we find that the storm is not as overwhelming as it once seemed. Trust allows us to see the storm from a different perspective. Instead of focusing on the danger or the discomfort, we begin to see it as a stepping stone, a necessary part of the journey that is shaping us into the person we were meant to be. It's in these moments of trust that we find strength we never knew we had and a peace that transcends the storm. The storms in life are not the end of the story. They are the beginning of something new. They carry with them the potential for growth and transformation if we choose to embrace them with faith. When we let go of fear and trust in God, we discover that the storm can actually be a tool in His hands to refine us, to build us, and to strengthen us for the future. And when the storm passes, we will find that we are not the same person who entered it. We will be stronger, more resilient, and more deeply rooted in the love and faithfulness of God. We often hear the promise that God will provide peace, but what does that really mean in the midst of life's most difficult moments? Some people mistakenly believe that trusting in God means they will no longer face storms, that all challenges will be removed and life will be smooth. But that's not the promise God gives. The promise is not the absence of storms. It is His presence in the midst of them. He never said we wouldn't face trials or difficulties. Rather, He promised that He would be with us through it all, guiding us with His love, wisdom, and divine purpose. Life's storms can be overwhelming, and when they hit, we might feel alone or abandoned. Yet, in those very moments of hardship, God is with us more than ever. His presence doesn't always take away the storm, but it gives us something far more powerful, His peace, His direction, and His comfort. When we invite God into the center of our struggles, we find that He doesn't just stand by and watch. He actively leads us, provides for us, and strengthens us. His presence doesn't promise an escape from the storm, but it guarantees that we will never have to face it alone. God's wisdom becomes a guiding light when we are lost in the dark. It's easy to make rash decisions in the heat of the storm, to act out of panic or fear. But when we surrender to God, we begin to experience a peace that quiets the noise of our minds and hearts, allowing His wisdom to guide us. His wisdom teaches us how to respond, how to find the right path in the midst of uncertainty, and how to navigate through the turmoil. Trusting in God's wisdom doesn't mean we will always understand the storm, but it means we trust that He is guiding us through it with purpose. One of the most comforting aspects of God's presence in our lives is that He is not a distant observer. He is actively involved in every moment, and His purpose for us is never lost in the chaos of life. Even when things seem out of control, God has a plan, a divine purpose that extends beyond the immediate challenges we face. When we face a storm, it's easy to focus on the immediate pain and confusion, but God sees the bigger picture. His purpose for us is far greater than the storm itself, and He uses even the most difficult circumstances to shape us, grow us, and draw us closer to Him. As we walk through life, we can be assured that God's promise is not a life free of struggles, but a life full of His sustaining presence. The storms will come, but with God by our side, we are never without hope. His love will carry us through, His wisdom will guide us, and His purpose will continue to unfold in our lives. When we understand that the storm is not the end of the story, but a part of a greater plan, we can face each trial with confidence, knowing that God is with us and will never leave us. One of the greatest struggles we face in life is the need to control everything around us. We want to manage our circumstances, dictate the outcomes, and ensure that nothing goes wrong. But the reality is, no matter how hard we try to control our lives, there are things beyond our grasp. And the more we try to hold on tightly to what we cannot control, the more anxious, stressed, and overwhelmed we become. It's as though we're constantly fighting against the current, exhausting ourselves in the process. But when we finally release that need to control, something beautiful happens, clarity emerges. We begin to see things with a clearer perspective, unclouded by the noise of worry and the burden of trying to handle everything ourselves. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up or resigning to fate. It means surrendering our worries, our fears, and our sense of self-sufficiency to God. When we choose to let go, we create space for Him to step in and lead. It's in this moment of surrender that we experience a profound shift. The confusion begins to clear. The overwhelming emotions of fear, frustration, and doubt fade into the background. What remains is a deep sense of peace and purpose, a recognition that, though we may not understand everything happening around us, we don't have to bear the weight alone. God is with us, guiding us every step of the way. The more we let go of control, the more we find inner calm. It's as if the constant noise of our thoughts quiets down, and we are finally able to breathe. We realize that we do not have to have all the answers, nor do we have to manage every aspect of our lives. There is freedom in trusting that God will provide what we need when we need it. This freedom allows us to walk in peace regardless of the circumstances. We no longer need to control every detail because we know that God is in control and His plan for our lives is greater than anything we could imagine or orchestrate on our own. When we walk in that peace, we also walk with confidence. Confidence that God's presence is with us, that He is working behind the scenes, and that nothing we face is without purpose. We can face challenges with a steady heart, knowing that we are not walking through them alone. In the past, our tendency may have been to rely on our own strength, but now we can rely on a strength that is far greater, God's strength. And that confidence doesn't come from our ability to control the future, but from our trust in God's ability to navigate us through it. Letting go of control doesn't mean we become passive or disengaged from life. It means we learn to walk in step with God, trusting His guidance and timing. It means we walk in peace, even when the world around us seems uncertain. When we choose to trust in God's presence and His plan, we can face each day with confidence, knowing that we are never alone. There is power in letting go, a quiet strength that comes from surrendering to a greater purpose, and a deep peace that settles our hearts, no matter what storms we face. When you find yourself in the midst of a storm, it can feel like the chaos will never cease. The winds howl, the waves crash, and it seems like nothing will ever change. But here's the truth, every storm has an end. No matter how violent or overwhelming it feels, the storm will not last forever. Just as the darkest nights give way to the light of dawn, every trial eventually comes to a close. This promise of an ending, of a new beginning, is something we must hold onto during the most difficult times. The storm you are facing today is not the end of your story. It is simply a chapter, and the breakthrough you long for is on the other side of surrender. Surrender is the key that unlocks the door to your breakthrough. It's only when we let go of our need to control the storm, when we stop trying to fix things on our own, that we allow God to work in the way He knows best. Surrendering is not a sign of weakness. It's an act of faith. It's trusting that God has a purpose even in the midst of our trials, and that He will use the storm to refine us. When we surrender, we let God take the lead, and that is when His strength becomes our strength. His wisdom becomes our guide, and His peace floods our hearts. Through surrender, we discover a strength that is not our own. The storms of life often reveal our limitations, our inability to control every outcome, our vulnerability, and our weakness. But it is precisely in these moments of vulnerability that God's strength is made perfect. When we stop relying on our own strength and trust in His, we find that we are more resilient than we thought. We gain the ability to stand firm, even in the face of adversity, because we know that our strength does not come from our own efforts, but from the One who holds the universe in His hands. Peace is another treasure we discover on the other side of surrender. The peace that God offers is not the temporary peace the world gives, one that fades when the storm picks up again. No, the peace that comes from surrender is deeper. It is a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that remains steady even when circumstances are uncertain. When we trust that God is in control and we allow Him to guide us through the storm, we find a calm that anchors our hearts, regardless of the turbulence around us. This peace is a direct result of our surrender, a gift from God that we can carry with us through every season of life. As we emerge from the storm, we find that we have a deeper connection with God than we ever had before. The storm, though painful, brings us closer to Him. It teaches us to rely on Him, to lean into His love, and to experience His faithfulness in ways we never could without the trials. Our relationship with God deepens because we have learned to trust Him more fully, to rely on His timing, and to embrace His presence even in the darkest moments. And when the storm finally subsides, we realize that the breakthrough we were waiting for was not just an external change, but a transformation within. We are stronger, more peaceful, and more connected to God than we ever were before. Now, understand this. God never promised a life without storms. He promised His presence through them. And if you can hold on to that promise, if you can cling to that truth like a lifeline, you will not just survive the storm. You will grow from it. You will rise stronger, wiser, clearer. So when the wind howls and the waves roar, when your mind is a battlefield of negative thoughts, when doubt claws at your dreams, pause, breathe, and listen. Listen not with your ears, but with your spirit. For in the stillness, in the quiet beneath the chaos, you will hear the whisper, "Be still, I am with you." And that whisper is not just comfort. It is a call to rise. It is a call to walk in peace even when the world shakes. It is a call to trust that the hand guiding you through the storm knows the way far better than you ever could. This is your moment, not when everything is perfect, but when everything is in question. Because it is in moments like these, when you feel the storm the strongest, that you also have the greatest opportunity to experience God's power the deepest. Don't let your circumstances dictate your belief. Let your belief transform your circumstances. Don't let the noise outside drown the voice inside. Let the storm be silenced by the stillness of divine truth. You are not lost. You are not forgotten. You are being shaped. And every storm you pass through is refining your purpose, building your endurance, and deepening your faith. What you think is breaking you is actually building you, if you allow it to. Let go of the need to control everything. Let go of the lies that say you're not enough. Let go of the shame that chains you to the past. Let go of the fear that freezes your future. And in that letting go, you will find something extraordinary. You will find peace. You will find strength. You will find the presence of God not as an idea, but as a living, breathing force within you. This is not a message of escape. It is a message of empowerment. It is not about running away from the storm. It is about walking through it with calm, with courage, with clarity. Because you are not walking alone. Every storm has an end. Every night turns into day. And every soul, when connected to the divine, finds its way back to peace. So let this be your moment. Let this be the beginning of a new chapter, not without storms, but with a new strength to face them. Not with louder fear, but with deeper faith. Not with trembling hands, but with a calm spirit. Let God calm the storm inside you. And when He does, when you finally feel that peace wash over your soul, you will know beyond any shadow of doubt that the greatest victory is not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of peace that cannot be shaken. You were born for this moment to be a light in darkness, to be a calm in chaos, to be a living testimony that peace is not only possible, it is promised. So walk forward, not with fear, but with faith, not with questions, but with confidence, not with noise, but with the still, steady assurance that no storm can ever outpower the calm of God within you. Thank you for walking this journey with me today. May your spirit be lifted, your heart be steadied, and your path be made clear. Until we meet again, stay strong, stay faithful, and let the peace of God go before you, beside you, and within you. Thank you, and goodbye.